Every Sunday morning, just as the church bells rang in the distance, a grieving father made his way to the small cemetery on the edge of town. It had been months since he had buried his little girl, yet the pain felt as raw as the first day. With trembling hands, he laid flowers by her grave, whispering prayers only she could hear. But each time he returned, something unsettled his heart. The grave never looked the same. The soil mound that should have settled flat with time seemed to rise higher, as if it was growing on its own. At first, he brushed it off, telling himself it was his tired eyes playing tricks, or perhaps the ground shifting beneath. But week after week, the change became too obvious to ignore. The earth looked freshly turned, the edges smoother, the mound fuller. He found himself staring at it longer than the flowers he had brought, confusion clouding his sorrow. Was someone tampering with her resting place? Was this some cruel prank, or a sign he was losing his mind under the weight of grief? His heart wrestled with fear and curiosity, but most of all with the aching question, why did his daughter's grave never rest? The question gnawed at him until he could no longer ignore it. One morning, instead of leaving after placing flowers, he decided to linger by the old oak tree at the edge of the cemetery. From there, he had a clear view of his daughter's grave, though hidden enough that no one would easily notice him. Hours slipped by, the sun climbing high and then slowly sinking again. The air grew heavy with silence, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant hum of traffic. Yet nothing unusual happened. No one came, no one touched the grave. Still, when he finally stood to leave, his eyes caught something he couldn't deny: the mound looked fuller than it had when he first arrived. His chest tightened with unease. It was as though the earth was being tended while he blinked, carefully shaped by unseen hands. Determined now, he returned the next day, and the day after, watching, waiting. Each visit left him more restless. His nights grew sleepless, haunted not only by memories of his daughter but by the mystery that surrounded her final resting place. The uncertainty became unbearable, and with a heavy resolve, he told himself that the next time, he wouldn't just wait for an answer, he would catch the truth with his own eyes. The evening sky blushed orange as the father returned to the cemetery once more, this time carrying not flowers but determination. He crouched low behind the same oak tree, his heart pounding with a mix of dread and hope. Minutes dragged into hours, and just as he began to think the day would end in silence again, a small figure appeared at the edge of the path. It was a boy, thin, with torn clothes and dirt-stained hands. The child moved with quiet purpose, as if he had done this many times before. The father's breath caught as he watched the boy kneel beside the grave. Carefully, almost tenderly, the boy pressed handfuls of fresh soil onto the mound, patting it smooth with his little palms. From his pocket, he pulled out tiny wildflowers, their stems fragile, their petals trembling in the breeze. He planted them one by one, whispering something the father could not yet hear. The sight stunned him. The mystery wasn't the work of vandals or strangers, but of this gentle child. A strange ache stirred in his chest as he leaned forward, straining to catch the words. That's when he realized the boy wasn't simply adding soil, he was speaking to his daughter, his small voice carrying prayers and secrets into the fading light. The father couldn't hold back any longer. Stepping out from behind the oak, his voice cracked as he called, "Why are you doing this?" The boy startled, his small shoulders stiffening before he slowly turned around. His eyes, wide and glistening, carried both fear and sorrow. For a moment, he looked ready to run, but then his lips trembled, and words tumbled out in a whisper. She was my friend," the boy said, glancing back at the grave. "At school, your daughter, she used to share her lunch with me when I had nothing. She never laughed when others did. She said I wasn't invisible." His voice broke, and he wiped his face with a dirty sleeve. The father felt his knees weaken as he listened. Each word pierced deeper than the last. The boy went on, his small hands clutching the soil as though it were a treasure. When she was gone, I didn't know what to do. So I come here. I bring soil to keep her grave strong. I plant flowers so she won't feel alone. It's the only way I know to say thank you." Tears blurred the father's vision. He had thought he knew every piece of his daughter's heart, yet here was a part of her kindness he had never seen, an act so simple, but so profound, that it lived on in this child. In that moment, the truth was clear: his daughter's love hadn't been buried. It had taken root. The father fell to his knees beside the boy, his tears spilling freely now. He reached out, pulling the child into his arms, holding him as though he were his own. For the first time since his daughter's passing, his sobs carried something more than grief, they carried gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered through the trembling in his voice, "for remembering her, for loving her the way she loved you." The boy clung to him, silent but comforted, as though the embrace filled a void he had long carried. Together they sat by the grave, surrounded by the tiny wildflowers the boy had planted. The grave, once a painful reminder of loss, now looked different, alive, tender, almost like a garden nurtured by love. The father realized that his daughter's kindness had not ended with her final breath. It had lived on quietly in this child, and now, in him too. The weight on his heart lifted just enough for hope to shine through. He promised himself that he would take care of the boy, just as his daughter once did. As the last light of day faded, the grave no longer felt like a place of sorrow, but of connection. What had once seemed to grow with mystery had been growing with love all along. The father rose with a new strength in his heart, knowing that even the smallest act of kindness can live forever, and sometimes, it blooms where we least expect it.